Hey, you actually get to see my face, and I'm going to speak because I am going to teach Tunisian. And it's one of those dying arts that I think should be preserved. It's not as hard as knitting by a long shot. And yet, what you create is a nice, sturdy fabric that can have a lot of purposes and uses. One thing that's intimidating about Tunisian and keeps people from doing it is it's needy. Tunisian is needy. Here I've got my hooks. This is not, my camera will not do mirror image and it's driving me insane. Here we've got our collection of hooks, and at the bottom right there you can see there's a little hole, an area for that to fit into, and it's a nice hook. I like the hooks that they've got on top of this. I am not being endorsed for this, but I have tried a lot of Tunisian techniques and a lot of Tunisian hooks. This came with a whole ton of these wonderful cords that make it a lot easier to get the length I want. To demonstrate today, I'm just going to do a short little length. I'm not going to do a whole bunch. I'm going to get my materials set up. I like these hooks because the cords just fit right into the back. It's a little simple twist. Once that's twist, it's locked. It doesn't come out. And then there's these beautiful little stoppers that hold all of your fiddly little stitches in place. So you're not going to lose your stitches off the back. It's the same attachment, just shove it on and twist, and it's very tightly locked. The only time when these were pulled apart was when my adorable stepson came to have his visitation with his dad, and kind of woke up before everyone else did and came down and got into stepmommy's crochet. And I could tell from the wreckage that he had just yanked and yanked and yanked. Everything was reparable. I tell all four of my kids, and I do include my stepson in that count, that things are hardly ever permanently broken, right? You can go back and fix it almost every time. It takes a special kind of skill to irrevocably break something. Um, that's true of a lot of relationships as well as most every toy in the house. Well, in any case, philosophy aside, I have my hook ready to go, but my camera is most noticeably not at the right angle. So I'm going to hit pause, get the teaching setup that I have so that you can see my hands nice, and I'm going to have to walk the journey trying to get this monkey camera. And please focus on the hands. Well, hopefully we can get this figured out. I will see you back in what is to you but an instant. All right, I have unpaused with a nice shot of my hands because when I move my hands off screen, it goes right back to focusing on my keyboard. And I've got my laptop so close because honestly and truly, I really want to see what I'm doing and what this looks like as I'm filming. I don't have a cameraman. I suppose I could rope one of my 4 kids into that, but not the 3-year-old, clearly. Clearly not the 3-year-old. Okay, oh stop. Ah, see, I told you. The focus. The focus. Oh my stars. Okay. So, Tunisian crochet, the stitch that I've been doing in the red that you've been seeing on my Afghan is 2 parts. There's the simple stitch and the purl stitch, and you need to know both to have them work in combination. So I'm going to do a couple rows in simple stitch, And then I'm going to do some purl rows. After you've got that one figured out, I am going to then show you how the simple stitch and the purl stitch work in combination to give you the honeycomb stitch that has been appearing in my red Afghan. Okay, so I've got my hook, I've got my yarn. Again, I'm just using a very basic, simple worsted weight yarn from a very popular store. Nothing fancy. I've just picked a color that is easy to see on camera, that it's easy to teach with. All right. Now, when you do Tunisian, it wants to curl around and be too tight, especially in the first couple stitches. Well, one way we can combat this is we're going to, all crochet projects start with a ring, or not with a ring, with a string of chain stitches. So we're just doing a very loose chain. It's not tight. It's not overly even. You want it to be big. Honestly, you could use the next size bigger up hook just to do your chain stitch. That's going to really, really help curtail the curling. All right. I am going to now go back over this. We're just going to do a short little patch, so you're not watching me doing this forever and ever. How did you learn how to do this, Karen? You know what? My great-grandmother started me on my journey, and YouTube finished it. Okay, so as ever, we're going to skip the first stitch because that would be silly. You can't go back into that and go into the next stitch. And what we're going to do is just pull up a loop and leave it. And again, pull it up big, pull it up loose. Get it. This isn't knitting. Get it loose. Again, just keep the first row. This is the casting on. Big, loose, floppy stitches for the cast on. Just draw up a loop. Draw up a loop. Going in, drawing up a loop. Now, with Tunisian, I'm going to put a little proviso. You have to work on your hook technique. If you are one of these people, we have twist all the way around. I can't even twist. I can't even work that way. If you're one of those twisty people, you're going to have to figure out how to keep the hook facing forward because we're all working forward. If you can keep the hook straight and kind of work around it, that's going to go so much more easily in doing this. So we're finishing our row of just drawing up a loop. Now the simple stitch is the basis of almost all Tunisian patterns. The history of Tunisian, there's not one really clear story. There just isn't. Honestly, nobody really knows. Although one thing that we do know is that this stitch I'm about to demonstrate, the simple stitch, used to be written down in English patterns as the stupid stitch or the idiot stitch. So don't be intimidated by this at all. All right, so after we have a cast on, every time you finish a row going forward, you have to go backwards. Do not turn. Don't do it. I know you want to, but you can't. No turning. We're going to yarn over and chain one, yarn over and pull through 2. And this is not row 2. This is the return row of your cast on. And you always yarn over, pull through 2. 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 No matter what stitch you do in Tunisian, the returning row is always the same. Chain 1 at the end, yarn over, pull through 2. Totally dead simple. Okay, I'm losing my yarn ball. I should have grabbed my yarn bowl. Okay. Now, when we work Tunisian, stop focusing on the keyboard, you ridiculous machine. Okay, when we work Tunisian, we work in these bars right here. Right here. Regular crochet, we normally work in the rows up top. Please focus on my, oh my God. Okay, there we go. Gonna have to call Gen Z or something. My 16-year-old is gonna have to come bail me out. Don't know how much you saw of that because apparently my camera decided to focus on the frickin' keyboard. Okay, so we work in these bars in the very front. Normally for normal crochet, we're used to working on the top. Forget that. This is not normal crochet. Clearly. We're going to skip the first bar. That's considered first stitch made. Skip it because you already have a stitch made through it. Right here. Here it is. For simple stitch, all we're going to do is go behind the bar. That's it. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Behind the front bar, yarn over, pull up a loop. Behind the front bar, yarn over, pull up a loop. Behind the front bar, yarn over, pull up a loop. So simple, right? Hello, and welcome to the simple stitch. We're just going into that bar. You can see them all lined up. Those are all those bars. All right there. That's where we're going to work. Yarn is forgiving. Crochet is forgiving, I should say, rather. Knitting, I can do without. Knitting, honestly, just no. I can't make it work. It's not forgiving. Okay, here at the end, you've got this bar on top and this little extra, just to make the end nice and tight so it's not all loose and floppy. I like to go in behind 2 bars like that. Yarn over, pull up the loop. So it's our returning chain. Here we are. We're returning half a row here. So we're gonna chain 1. That's it. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. I'm going to quietly demonstrate another row of that so you can watch along and hopefully it makes sense to you. I know you've been watching me do this for quite some time. I'm kind of going off camera, aren't I? I don't know if it's because I'm bumping that. I don't know. I'm going to get myself back on camera here. There we go. Ha! Sorry about that if that was a little confused. But I will demonstrate another row here. So I've made my first stitch already by finishing the return row. So I'm going to skip 1, go back behind, pull up. Just going to do this straight across. again, now that I've come all the way to the end, I like to pick up the back bar as well. We have our front bar and back bar. That's what that's called. So far, we've only worked in the front bar. You pull up your loop and then chain one in that loop, yarn over, and pull across. Now, the second part of the stitch that I have been doing is the purl stitch. So we have made the very, very easy, simple stitch that is the basis of almost every Tunisian crochet project. And you get this lovely pattern. I think this is so nice. I like these straight bars up and down. It just looks so nice. Such a nice pattern. But now, in order to get honeycomb, you need to know the purl stitch. There's lots of different stitches in Tunisian. And while this one is the most common, the other stitches are required to make fancy patterns like the one I'm doing in my Afghan. Okay, so for this one, we're going to knock the yarn down in front of the hook. Insert. So now the yarn has crossed over in front of that front bar. Come on, camera. Work with me and stay focused, you crazy machine, because I'm about to scream. And then you yarn over and pull up a loop, and you have this little complicated knot. So again, we're going to pull the yarn down in front of the bar and insert the hook so we have that line right there. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Pull the yarn down in front over the bar, yarn over and pull up a loop. And you see the happy little slappy pattern it's making right there. That's different from the one below it. Pull the yarn down in front, yarn over, pull up. Push the yarn down in front, push, pull, doesn't matter. Forcibly move that yarn in front of that bar before you insert. And you got this lovely little twisting chain. It's so cute. It looks exactly like knitting. I'm sorry, purl knitting is what you should get when you're done. It looks like you've done a row of purl knitting, which is the back of your sweater. If you want to go look at a sweater you have that's knitted and look at the back, the front is all knit stitch, the back is all the purls. All right. I almost forgot, pull the yarn down in front, pull up. And then again, when we get to the end, you don't need to blacken the bar. You can just do a simple stitch in the end. That's totally fine. Oops. I went off camera. Oh, this is so much to manage. All right, you can just do a simple stitch in the end. Pull up a loop, chain one. Now it is a different stitch, but the returning row is always the same. Chain one, yarn over, pull through two. 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 Oopsies. Oops, just back that one out. Back that one out. Yarn over, pull through two. 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 There you go. And you finished your row and started your next one. So we've got a different pattern emerge. It looks like little purl stitches. I'm going to do another row so you can see that again. Push it forward, draw up a loop, push it forward, draw up a loop. Oh, this focus on this camera. Why are you so fascinated with the keyboard behind? There we go. Thank you. Thank you. Focus on that. Can I don't know if I can put something on that freaking keyboard, because I don't know if it's just excited about all the buttons. I don't know. Maybe if that's just a boring background, it won't focus on it. Okay. So, push the yarn forward, behind the bar, yarn over, pull up. Yarn goes forward in front of the bar, yarn over, pull up. Yarn goes forward, hook goes behind, just like that. Am I still not in focus? Oh my God. I'm going to redo these last stitches because I'm just not in focus. This is frustrating the snot out of me. Literally. Huh? Kind of gross. All right. Why? Why is this happening? All right. I'm going to pause where I find a solution to this. All right. I have made the backgrounds a lot more boring with my tweed pillow, tweed and cat hair. Please enjoy the combination of textures there. That was much fun. Okay, I think we're gonna stay in focus this time. You can just barely see my screen poking out over my tweed couch cushion. All right, so we're pushing the yarn forward, going behind the bar. This is the purl stitch. I show you all my mistakes. I'm just a mom trying to encourage crocheting. Hopefully, as things move forward and everybody starts washing, I can get better equipment, get a better setup. But right now, I really am Gen X MacGyvering this. All right, you hear my whipcord whipping around off camera. Hopefully that's not too distracting. But remember, with this purl stitch, we're pulling this forward, pushing this forward, pulling this forward. You wanted to get it on the front of this bar so it looks like this, making a cute little cross. Yarn over and pull up. That we're doing. Now I keep wanting to not do a purl stitch in the next one because using these two stitches in combination makes the cute little honeycomb stitch. Now again, when I've reached the end, I don't need to do another purl. This is just the finishing stitch. It's done. Unless your pattern specifically says. So the returning row, pull up a chain, chain one, yarn over, pull through two. So I'm just going to, now that I'm staying in focus, dear Logitech webcam, why was my keyboard so much more interesting in the background that you had to focus on that instead of my moving fingers? What the heck? Okay, there. Let's take a look at our two different textures. There's our simple stitch on the bottom and our lovely purl stitch in 2 rows right here on the top. There is a knit stitch in Tunisian, so you can do a knit, purl, and you can even do cables. I thought that was kind of fun. But we're not going to work on the knit stitch today. We're doing the honeycomb stitch. Now the honeycomb stitch is so great because you use the simple stitch in your first, and then you use the purl stitch in your next. So you've already made your first stitch. You've already done your first one. Skip this. Move on to the next. We're going to do a simple stitch, and then we're going to do a purl stitch. simple stitch, purl stitch, simple stitch, purl stitch. It's easy to lose track, and with this pattern, if you do, you might need to frog depending on what happens. You all remember how much I love to frog. This is one of the least forgiving patterns, but it's well worth it. Wait till you see the fancy reveal. So I did a purl stitch, simple stitch, purl stitch, simple stitch, purl stitch, simple stitch, and just a simple stitch to finish off the row. Our returning row is always the same. It's finishing the stitches in front, filling them in back behind. Tunisian is not nooking. Nooking with a K is knitting with a Tunisian hook, but it is not the same as Tunisian. It's a different art, and I'm not interested because it smacks of knitting. All right, so we've got a little bit of something coming in. You really can see it looks kind of fugly, but wait till you see the second row. Now in this first stitch here, I have done a simple stitch. So I want to finish off my pattern by doing a purl into simple stitches. To get that honeycomb, you want to do a simple stitch into your purl stitches. And this is why you really need to be paying attention. See here I've got a knit stitch, and you can tell because there's that piece of yarn that I pulled down in front. So because it's a purl, I'm going to do a simple stitch. Here we don't have that piece of yarn, so this is a simple stitch. So I'm going to do a purl. And as you work through this, here I have a purl, so we're doing simple. The beautiful pattern starts to emerge really when I do the return row on this next row. You will be amazed. I was. I saw a swath of honeycomb stitching done. And don't worry about the pattern when you finish off your row. As always, just do a simple stitch in the last. Yarn over, chain one, yarn over, pull through two, all the way across. When you're really focused on a stitch that's this complicated, the return row is such a break because you just don't have to think at all. It is a non-thinking row. All right, and see, oh, look at that. Do you see my lovely honeycombs emerging? I'll do one more row of that. Always skip this one because that's silly. You can't work in it anyway. Here we have a purl now. So we're doing simple. Simple gets a purl. Purl gets a simple. And back and forth. I kind of don't have to think about it as much as when I first started to do this. The first honeycomb thing I made, I was staring at it and staring at it and staring at it. I just wanted to get it right. And I messed up one of the patterns and I had to frog. Go slow. Look at your work. Don't get too engrossed in your TV shows like I do. I go all slack-jawed and unattractive. All right. Got my pattern correct. I'm going to fill it in and do this one more row so you can really see the pattern. And there's my return. Don't have to think much on the return, thank goodness. Oops. Oops. My whip rattling around on my camera support here, which happens to be my desk lamp. I thought putting light directly on my hands would make them easier for the camera to focus on. Yeah, no, that's not what happened. What can you do? What can you do? Look at this. Oh, you see why it's called the honeycomb stitch. So we have our simple stitch, our purl stitch, and then when you cleverly combine them, the honeycomb stitch. So nice, so simple. Have fun with